Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to?
Welcome again to Street Talk. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki. And on Street Talk, we deal with political, social, and economics here in Michigan, the U.S., and abroad. Now, joining me tonight,
Dennis Burnside.
Paget Maynard.
All right, man, we got a lot to talk about, but one of the things I want to mention is that we have a lot of wars going on, but some places we just got murders. Murders going on, really, In Uganda.
The Congo?
Yeah, they were saying other day 10 million people been misplaced. I mean, not displaced, but
displaced.
Yeah.
Displaced.
In
10,
Somalia.
Yeah. So that's one of the places. But the other thing I want to mention is that we got an election coming up, and I'm just hoping we got a lot of PTSDs out here, and I'm hoping that before time to vote, they'll get some sense in them, The black women, we know how they voted last time. We know how they're going to vote this time. But it's a lot of us out here still, for some reason, the white man's ice got to be hotter. It's got to be colder, and so we've been in this country almost 600 years, and still a bunch of us still following the white man. So that's what I want to mention. But go ahead.
Well, you have an ethos from the right that says greed is good, the accumulation of wealth and assets is objective to this whole game, that anything that you do which minimizes your liabilities and maximizes your profitability is desirable. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, you have an ethos out here that says we should do everything that we can to lift the least of those among us and make their life bearable and enjoyable and a chance at happiness, meaning that they have health care, meaning that they have a roof over their head, meaning that they have adequate nutrition. And so these two competing narratives have been at war for a long time, since the days of Reagan, but now you have a narrative that's coming from, and it's a very, very, very small minority, but they have big mouths. And this is some of your minor entertainment African Americans, people a lot of us had never even heard from, but you find out that they have all kind of market share in terms of the music they sell, and also the influence they convey just by saying some things. And for them, they see a me first, get money, profit, party, champagne type of ethos as very desirable, and Donald Trump represents that to them. What I think a lot of our young people are doing, both young black men and black women are doing, is pointing out that, look, little big head, look, little young thug, or whatever your name is, you can have, right now you're doing very well. You're very, very wealthy, maybe even have tens of millions of dollars in the bank. But if Project 2025 comes along, you won't have the freedom to express yourself in the profane, stupid way that you do now.
Right.
You won't make the money now.
Nope.
The people who buy your music are people who don't respect you. They just love the beat and the rhythm, and as long as you use a lot of N-word and call your sister the H and a B, they're going to keep on buying it. Well, that's going to go away. because Project 2025 has this real desire to clamp down on free expression and things that are now acceptable, like pornography, like uncensored music lyrics, like the ability to express yourself with whatever your born gender is, what your identification is now, your sexual preferences. All those things are going to go away.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're not paying attention, if those things are a priority to you, you should be aware of them now. And that's where I think a lot of the young people, especially women of all races, are saying, we need to have bodily autonomy. I've seen the Handmaid's Tale series, and a lot of young people looking at it saying, I don't want to live that kind of life. So I do think that in the main, you will see a turnout that is not reflected by the polls, and we've seen it in Kansas. Right. We've seen it in other red states.
Florida.
Where you've had these midterm elections or special elections where women came out in droves and ran the red candidate out and elected a blue candidate. I don't see any reason to expect anything differently in November on the presidential election, despite the fact that those women and their compunctions are not reflected in the polls. I think when you get down to the votes, I think a lot of these apathetic young people, especially the apathetic young black men, will be made irrelevant.
You know, the devil has his friends. Trump has his friends, his supporters. So we know, no matter who it is, I have never heard of anybody in an election who never gets some votes. You may not get a whole lot, but you still have some. There is somebody gonna be there for this, whoever, whatever the person is. And the unfortunate thing is, we in this country, we put too much emphasis on the polls, because when you look at it, like you brought out, Dennis, if the people were to go by the polls and say, well, it didn't matter because he's already up there, we can't do anything, you couldn't win. But look what, they came out, especially since Roe v. Wade was overturned. Look at how many places, how many states had that on the ballot, and the numbers were there. The women were out there. And women got to lead. There's a song that says, women gonna rule this country in the 21st century, which is now. And they may not be thinking it's gonna happen so soon, but it's on the doorstep.
I think a lot of changes are on the horizon.
It's on the doorstep.
Yeah, I think there's some changes right now that have to do with a changing culture worldwide that recognizes Western dominance as a handmaid for white supremacy.
Yes.
And you're starting to see people in different parts of the world saying, you know, enough of your stuff, man. Enough of it. And if you look, one of the most surprising things I saw this weekend, I mean, it actually made me say, whoa. And in fact, the first time that this video came to me was from a good friend of mine, Ishmael Muhammad. You know Ishmael. He used to be in our group. Good brother, good guy.
Yeah.
And he sent me this video of Candace Owens debating this radical rabbi from Israel. And I responded to Ishmael, man, I don't want to hear anything she has to say. This coon and Uncle Tom can't tell me a thing that I'm interested in. And I didn't listen to it. He kind of laughed. Well, I kept getting it sent to me. So finally I said, okay, I'm going to listen to it. And she gave old boy the business. She said, okay, since you want to quote scripture to me, I'm going to quote it back to you. And she talked about the idea that you could murder and render homeless and suppress and dominate a people is anti-scripture.
Yes,
and
true.
she even went on to say that as it says in Revelations, I think she said 3:9, if anyone at home wants to check it. She said that, it also says, since you're quoting scripture to me, that there are those from the synagogue of Satan who call themselves Jews but are not.
Right.
Who will do these da 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 da. And I'm sitting there looking at her, and she's saying this to this cat's face. And I've heard this dude speak before, and he's a very belligerent, very, very rude type person who's always talking about the right that they have to kill and maim. And she gave him the business, and he was rendered almost speechless. And I think that if you have someone who's been handmaid to power in abuse like she has for years, speaking out against what we see in Gaza, then I think there are a lot of people out there who are seeing those images coming in. As I said in the show a few weeks back, I think that's the reason why back in the spring and early summer you saw people saying, we got to get rid of TikTok, we got to get rid of TikTok.
Right.
Because TikTok is unfiltered. And you're seeing videos and commentary straight from the horse's mouth,
right.
from the mother of the child who just got his legs blown off, from the husband of the wife who was just decapitated by a bomb making dinner.
Yep.
You're seeing these people firsthand, and the young people are watching TikTok videos, and their opinions are being formed by what they're seeing, not what ABC News says to them. They're not paying attention to that crap. So I think, again, you're going to see a very underappreciated wave of young people and women who are going to come out, and they're going to make votes based on the atrocities that we're seeing in Africa, the atrocities that we're seeing in Gaza, the atrocities that we're seeing in the West Bank. We just saw a female American standing there, minding her own business with people who were observing a situation from a distance, be shot with a sniper rifle right between the eyes and killed, an American. And you're starting to see people say, you know what, who the hell are these Israelis? Why do we justify what they're doing? And I'm damn sure not in
we
favor
giving
of
them
this.
giving them all these weapons, giving them all this money and stuff.
And geopolitics compels both Democrat and Republican candidates or politicians to always back Israel. But you're starting to see the sand of that foundation crumble because people are saying, look, man, this is pure evil, and we can't justify it.
And don't you forget, Netanyahu, baby, is hell-bent on totally destroying these people. Now he wants to control this pathway so he could determine what comes in and what goes out. You know? He has an evil mind.
Well, what Dennis just got through saying, you know.
It goes worse than that.
Oh, yeah.
It goes worse than that. There's I just read about this weekend. There is actually a plan among the uber violent right-wing Zionists who are in power under Netanyahu that they call Operation Samson, I believe it is. And what Operation Samson says is, well, before I tell you what it says, keep in mind that Netanyahu wants this war to go on
forever.
On, because the longer it goes on, he's either going to win and get his way, or everybody dies and he doesn't go to prison because he's facing prison. He's deeply unpopular. And when this war started on October 7th, he was pending a prison sentence before that. But here's what Operation Samson says. It says if the existence of the state of Israel is threatened, we will unleash nuclear war on the world. In other words, it's saying if we don't exist, ain't nobody gonna exist, and they ain't playing.
Nobody.
So
really
the reason
exists.
why they can go into Iran and murder an operative of Hezbollah in sovereign Iranian territory with no warning, no justification, and kill this guy and anyone else who was in that area and walk around because they're saying, what are you going to do about it, Iran? Shoot at us and we got something for you. Whatever you got, we got more, and we're willing to use it. We're willing to blow up everybody if it means us not moving on to the future.
Now, where is Israel getting their nuclear bombs from?
Where?
Yeah.
I hope that's a rhetorical question. Because you know the answer.
I want to hear it.
Remember that bomb that blew up the hospital that were early in the war? I think this was during the holiday season.
Remember it?
Yeah.
They had a refugee camp at the base of this hospital that the IDF had directed people to go to, right? And this missile comes down, and you can see the missile again on one of those ubiquitous TikTok videos that was also on YouTube. You could see this thing come down, zoom, and hit, blow up, and it was a huge explosion.
Yeah.
Left a crater that was like 60 feet deep, obliterated this camp, killed hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And then they look at some of the shrapnel, and it all but says made in the USA, sent by Joe Biden on it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So we know where the nuclear weapons are
I asked that
manufactured.
for a reason.
Yeah, that's what I said. I hope it was rhetorical.
Now that the people know where it's coming from, are we able to say to our government, hold off everything, take them back if you could?
No.
Could we do that?
We should
Could
be able
we get
to.
them back?
Reagan did it. Reagan put a pause on arms shipments to Israel.
Okay, we could pause the shipment, but could we get back what they have now? They say they're going to nuke the world.
Well,
okay, could we take back our nukes?
Hey man, the Israeli government attacked a U.S. Military boat. I can't remember what style it was, but it had cannon, machine guns. It was a warship. And the Israeli government, I think it was called the Stark, and this was like 1967. They attacked it. They sunk it. They killed like 142 Navy people. Does that register anything in your memory? Because most people don't know about it because it was damn sure not in the headlines. So my point is, they've had a long history of getting away with what they want to get away with because we supply the weapons and we cover up for their atrocities, even when they're done to us.
And you know that
So are we going to go get their weapons and take them away from them?
No.
Come on, man. Are you going to go back to being 15 tomorrow and going to high school?
No.
Because if you're going to do that, then maybe that's what will happen.
Maybe that would happen.
Yeah.
You see, you got to remember, Israeli leaders, many of them, some of them, were terrorists.
Menachem Begin,
Yeah.
the original prime minister.
Yeah.
David Ben-Gurion.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about their George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. They were the ones blowing up school buses.
Yeah.
They were the one blowing up schools. They were the one taking people's houses from them and summarily executing people. People want to, this is not me saying that I'm a Nazi and I hate Jews. That's not the case.
No.
I don't like Zionists. And if we're going to talk about the record, damn it, let's talk about the record. Let's not sugarcoat it and paper it over and pretend that it's something that it's not. They began in terrorism. They continue in terrorism. So why should we be surprised?
And no wonder they are doing everything to get rid of terrorists.
Well,
That's people fighting back.
Okay. What about Trump in the cemetery?
Went to Arlington.
He's in the cemetery.
The only reason he should be going to a cemetery if it's his funeral.
And I wouldn't put him in the cemetery and I'd throw him out the weed someplace. But anyway, he's there and he's putting up like
The wreath.
Yeah. And the thing about it, he never been to the military, and he dodged five times.
He hates the military. Put it straight.
This is the man who went to the cemetery in France, where the Normandy invasion took place. One of the biggest U.S. military cemeteries anywhere in the world. And he didn't want to go because his hair was going to get wet. Okay? That's the kind of person we're talking about.
And he didn't want to see the wounded guys. Because
he said they look terrible. I don't want to. Nobody wants to see that, is what he said.
Yeah.
Now this man goes to this Arlington National Cemetery, which is seen as almost
it's like sacred grounds.
I guess sacred is the best word,
Yeah.
Paget. And
Yeah.
and he goes there and he's told
Yeah.
explicitly,
Yeah.
no games with politics, no campaign event, no videos, none of that.
Yeah.
And he muscles past the young lady who tried to stop him from
Yeah.
getting in that section. I think it's called Section 60,
Yeah.
where the Iraqi and Afghanistan veterans are buried.
Right.
Muscled his way past.
Yeah.
Apparently, there was some kind of physical altercation.
There was.
And the young lady reported it, and the Army said, "Do you want to press charges?" And she said no. And you know why she said no?
Yep.
Because she's
Retribution.
afraid of physical retribution. The same
Yeah.
reason why
Yeah.
Judge Mersan, who was the judge in the state case where Trump was convicted of 34 felonies, put off the sentencing.
Yeah.
And you read between the lines, we don't want to interfere with the election.
Yeah.
That man, please.
Yeah.
The man's a criminal.
Yeah.
Sentencing.
Look.
But the reason why he doesn't is because he's afraid
Yeah.
of what will happen to him.
Yeah.
He's been getting threats almost daily.
Yeah, well, see,
and they're not playing.
That's what we were talking about, Patrick. It's
Yeah.
like we here's a criminal. I won't even say a man, a criminal. Out here, and he's got this kind of a thing out here. Oh, if I don't get my way,
You see, that is the issue, though, because everybody become afraid of him. You see, and the elections, everything now, anything he's around is shrouded in fear.
Yeah.
Everybody must be, no, Trump is coming.
Yeah.
This weekend, he explicitly said that the people who campaign against him,
Right.
who run against him,
You
who
work for the other
who rule
person.
against him as a judge, who vote for him, who campaign against him, he's promising them long jail sentences. And I'm just about to cancel both my Washington Post and my New York Times subscription because the next day, you know what their headlines were all about? They're about whether or not Kathleen Harris was going to be popular enough with this mysterious white working class diner voter. Really? This man just threatened everybody in the country
Everybody.
Yeah.
with totalitarian tactics that evolve long prison sentences, as he said, and murder.
Yeah.
And you you buried it in the 15th paragraph of a story that starts on page 3.
I'm almost to stop getting the USA Today because every time on the back page you get these two opinions, and every day, man, it's this lady.
That's not going to stop.
She
I said the devil has his friends.
Yeah.
And you're going to see it in every sphere of life.
And I don't mind commentary,
but
editorial opinion pieces where you have people on the right say,
but
this is
okay,
good.
this
even if
is
they're
my
lying,
opinion
but
because
you're reporting, your journalism should
Yes.
say, which is more important, how Kathleen Harris is polling among this demographic, or the man who's running for president promising you to tear down the government and throw people in prison for long terms if they had the audacity to campaign against it.
And you see, because when you go back to the
Matter of fact,
Arlington,
y'all going to jail. You two.
you go back to Arlington situation. Trump said he didn't know that you could. You were commander-in-chief. You ought to have known that.
He's lying.
Well, see,
We know he's lying. The woman, the worker there, went and stopped them, tell them you can't do this. They pushed her aside.
Minimum. It may have been worse than that.
yeah, it probably was worth
That is all they were saying.
Yeah.
They
pushed her
physically-
aside. She was physically handled.
Assaulted her.
Yes.
Let's call it what it is.
But because of Trump's intentions and his actual deeds, don't forget January 6th, and he now called them patriots.
Yeah.
Because of that, people are afraid to respond.
Well,
His people will come at you.
I think there's some kickback coming on his side of the fence. One of his right-wing loudmouths, trying to remember, Nick Fuentes,
Okay.
who was either in the Proud Boys or one of those clown outfits. He came out this weekend and called Trump a liar, that couldn't be relied on, that they were fools to go out and do what they did on January 6th because Trump slipped up in a podcast interview and said that he lost the election by a whisker.
I heard him.
So
By
Nick
a
Fuentes
whisker.
is saying, wait a minute. You said you won. You said it was stolen. You said there was proof. That you said there was evidence. You had 160 people so far go to prison. He said, I've lost my ability to bank online. I've lost my passport. I've lost my ability to function in society. I can't even pay bills online anymore. I've lost all this, and now you want to tell me it's all based on a lie? Now you admit it? So if he's starting to see that crumble within his own hard base, I mean, these guys, they can't wait for a civil war to start. If they're starting to crumble away, and then you see the women whose husbands, walking around with the red hat on, talking about, I'm going to vote for Trump, and they're looking at him like, you go ahead, player, because I got something for you. I'm voting for Kathleen. I ain't going Handmaid's style. So I do think that when it's all washed out and the election happens, I don't think it's going to be as close as people are indicating that the polls say they are. And I also don't think that you're going to see this violent retribution in the street. I just don't think people are there anymore.
I don't either. I don't either.
That's what Donald wants.
Of course he does.
And he's spitting it out with the hopes that his people going to just jump to it. But fortunately, when you see the problem, you see all these cases they got, and like the Supreme Court and all of that push everything back, that was to make sure the people don't know. But there's still a chance that some things are going to come out from that Washington case with what's her name, the Jamaican woman, Chutkin.
Oh, it is.
They
messed up.
Something's going to come out.
The trial's been pushed back to after the election.
Yeah.
But you're also going to have hearings.
All these coming out and the info going to be available.
Evidentiary hearings.
It will be available.
All of it.
Yes.
And it's going to be online, and it's going to be public for everybody to see, and that's going to come out sometime in October. So yeah, you have a lot of people who won't read, but most people can do and will read. And then you have people like us who read all the time who are going to be amplified. And it's going, did you know that Trump did this, thus, and so to try to steal an election? Do you know that these fools went to prison for a lie that he knows was a lie?
Yeah.
So again, that's another thing that's another axe that's about to fall. I think the boy's desperate. I really do. I really do think he's living in fear every day. That's why every weekend, he goes nuts with these. If not every night, he goes nuts with these truth social messages that say it was all a steal. They stole it in 20. They're looking to do it again.
Yeah, well,
that's his MO. Say it is stolen. Say that it's rigged, and people now are thinking, well, Trump said.
Yeah, well.
Can't you understand the man is a liar? An inveterate liar. He can't help lying.
Well, he lies all the time.
That's his nature.
He's the worst liar that'll ever be.
That's his nature.
I mean,
he's just like the scorpion. His nature is to sting. He can't help stinging, even though he can drown.
You know what? That's interesting. When he launched his campaign in 2016, in the very first speech he ever gave, or maybe within the first three, he did a story about that song about the scorpion and the woman, and she said, "You stung me. Now we're both going to drown. We're both going to die. Why'd you do it?" And he said, "Woman, you knew I was a scorpion when you picked me up."
Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, "You're too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power. And I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.